There's many ways to say the exact same story. One, what's the most simple differentiator? The structure of the story. If you look at what you said, or whatever it is you're interested in, like the guy like Game of Thrones, okay, what's the structure? I said this, then I said this, then I said this, then I said this. You can play around with the structure to make things more interesting too. If you put this piece here and that piece there, very different. And you must learn and understand that on a more logical level. And this can't put you in your head, by the way, so you got to master the vibe first. But once that's the default, then it's playing around with this and being like, okay, well, how could I perfect it? I do this with public speaking. Even this little bit here, guess what? I'm going to watch it on the recording and analyze how I explained it. And as I analyze it, in terms of the structure, I'm going to ask myself, how could it have been better structured? Oh, maybe if I said this bit here. Maybe if I started with a story and then led into that concept, so on and so forth. Many different ways. Even in terms of different threads of a conversation, people tend to go very logical. They're like, here's story number one. It starts, it hooks, it ends. It starts, it hooks, it ends. And you go story to story to story, as opposed to going, as we call, multiple threading and having many stories going at the same time. I always joke, it's like the Marvel movies. Whether you like those or not, they are the best at multiple threading. Here's Hero 1 and Hero 2, Hero 3 and Hero 4, Hero 5 and Hero 6. And there's all these stories happening at the same time, and the whole movie's jumping between the different storylines. That should be your conversation. Instead of, here's story number one. Actually, it also makes me think of this. Oh, back to story number one. Back to story number three now. Oh, and back to story number two. Multiple threading. Sucks people in and makes something much more captivating. But it has to come after the vibe. If you're someone, once more, who's just very limp, just like, hey, so here's the story number one and story number two, then you're just going to bore people with three terrible stories and boring stories. I'll do more harm than good. Everyone's like, just end your first story and go away. So this comes after, but multiple threading is key. The same with the structure being a little bit more ADD, interrupting yourself. You don't have to finish everything. There's a lot of times if I'm talking to someone, I might be starting a story and I'm seeing, you know what, with this specific person, it's just not resonating. I don't need to finish it. I'll just change the topic to another story. So by the way, oh, actually, you know there's this other thing, and I'll just change it like that. Changing around, jumping around, whether it's done in multiple threadings, you can jump back to it. And it will also, by the way, help you not run out of things to say. Because if you end one story instead of what's next, you just jump back to a previous one you were in the middle of. Always have mini stories you're in the middle of. You can just jump back around to. Okay? So I'll do that a lot, and I'll just jump around and find one that clicks. And some I'll never go back to, and that's fine. Also, in terms of the structure, the more ADD and the more disconnected your stories are, this creates what we call an emotional spike in someone. Meaning, if I'm talking, I'm like, hey, so San Francisco, that's cool. You know, by the way, do you dance? And it's like, wait, what? Dancing in San Francisco? What's the link? If there's no logical link, it gets both of you more focused on the emotional side. It's like, wait, what? It's very different, right? Hey, nice to meet you. Do you like math? Wait, what? Math? What? It's like, wait, what? And then again, and it doesn't have to be, people always think, oh, you got to be very polarizing in terms of what you say. Not necessarily. You can say the most bland and boring things, but if there isn't always a link between them, an emotional spike. So all that is in the structure, something to play around with. Okay? Then from there, you have structure. You also have, you could say, vocabulary or word choice, texture in a way. And this is where you can also analyze and look at, how do you speak? What's your style of speaking? Right? You've heard me talk. If you've heard Owen talk, we have two very different styles of speaking. If I try to be more like him, it'll be very often incongruent. If he tries to be more like me, it'll also be often very incongruent. Sure, there's some similarities, but we all have our own, you could say, authentic strengths. What is yours? You try to act like someone else, you'll just be a poor person's version of that person. As opposed to, what is me? What's my style of speaking? And if you don't know, try anything and everything and see how it feels. Try it on for size. For real. You're like, hey, I wonder if for me, maybe it feels like, what if I'm like just overly just confident? Try it out. Try one day being loud and overly confident. It feels a little off. Okay, let me tone that down a bit. Test it. So much of it is not just thinking, it's test and see. Practice, practice, practice. Get experience and see. Learn and see. So even there, even the cadence, right? Learn and see. Learn and see. Many different ways of talking. Even some events I might, just reflect more on and have a bit more of the Jordan Peterson shaky hand movement, and the lobster and this stuff. Or maybe I'll be harsher, or maybe it'll be fun like this. Many different ways. So work on the texture. How do you speak? Cadence-wise too. You want to add a range. Fast, slow, loud, quiet, right? Focus on that. Then there's even the words that you choose and the details or the stories. There's the, you could say, imagining side of it, right? Structure, texture, imagination. Meaning you could say a million different things using different words and different examples and different stories. Even adding swear words, add some graphic. Details, add graphic, right? Say I'm like, you know what? I was checking into my hotel yesterday, and the lady gave me two free bottles of water. There's one. There's the story. That's one way. There's not much imagination, right? Like you know it, like I know it because I've been there, but none of you know it. You're like, okay. You could also add like, hey, so yesterday I walked in, and there was this one lady like really intimidating. She was actually still wearing her mask, which I was shocked by. So I couldn't see the full face, but her eyes, something about them, like really thick eyebrows, just really sketchy. And I was hoping I wouldn't end up with her for check-in, but I did. Now just that, is your experience of that story already very different than the first one? Yeah. Just by adding those little details, your mind's filling in the blank. That's the imagining, the graphic, right? Oh, and then she reached for the water and it was just really shitty water and Dasani, better just, so I tossed them away right after. I didn't toss them, but now it paints another picture, right? So all that comes into the structuring side of things. The best exercise that I'd recommend that helps with this, not only vibe, but especially content, is the podcast exercise. Where every single person, if any of you are serious about improving your social skills, you better be doing this exercise and you better have this podcast. Now, what do I mean by this? Pick a schedule that works for you. You could say, okay, 1 episode a week. 1 episode every 2 weeks if you're really busy, or 2 a week. But ultimately, give yourself a schedule that you're going to stick to no matter what. And what does that mean? That say you pick once a week you're going to fill 1 hour of content as if you had a public podcast. So what does that mean? You're going to take your phone out if you don't have a camera. You're going to set it up as if it's going online. You're going to press record, no cuts, 1 take, 1 hour. There you go. Hey, this is Julien and welcome to the Julien Podcast. And now you have 1 hour to fill it with whatever you want. But you better fill it. And then you're going to rewatch that video. When rewatching the video, filter it through what we talked about. Look at the vibe, but then look at content-wise. Look at the structure. Take notes. Then what does it also do? It gets your mind focused in between episodes on how are you going to fill the next hour. Oh, next week's coming. How am I going to fill that hour? What happened this week? You're going to start collecting little events from your day, from your life that you wouldn't have collected otherwise. Little stories, little anecdotes. Save it for the podcast. Save it for the podcast. You never have to release this publicly, of course. Keep it for you, or put it out publicly if you want. Do you. But just that habit, absolute game changer. And then really challenge yourself to compete with actual public podcasts that are crushing it. Meaning, don't be like, well, it's just my version. Like, try to compete. Ask yourself, hey, if I was a random person watching my podcast, would I get sucked in? Would I be into it? If the answer is no, step it up. You can reach that point. And you'll start learning so much about yourself. This year, you'll never run out of things to say. It'll really accelerate your results. Of course, you need references to make sure it's calibrated, because then it's real people versus just a camera. But in terms of you, absolute game changer. And then what will happen is you'll start watching other podcasts of people. And because you've taken some action on your own podcast, your focus, your RAS, reticular activating system, will focus on little subtleties you wouldn't have seen otherwise. Instead of just listening to a podcast or watching it for fun, you'll be analyzing it and being like, okay, in my podcast, when I was trying the exercise, there were a couple times where I ran out of things to say and there was a little lull. Or I didn't know how to change from this topic to that topic. How does this person do it? And then you're going to start seeing, when are they more in their head? When are they in a good flow? When did they run out of things to say? When did they make a good shift? And you'll catch it because you took action. And this is where you also realize that sometimes you can't reach a certain level without taking some action first. We think that, say you want to go from point A to point B, people are like, I'm going to wait till I see all the steps to get to point B. Without realizing that if you wait like that, you'll wait forever. Without realizing that for, say, step 8 and 9 to appear, you need to have walked 3 to 4 steps. For you to start seeing that in other podcasts, you need to actually take action on your own podcast, and that'll activate your focus to see it. But if you're serious about it, do that exercise. No joke. Podcast exercise, absolute game changer. Take notes throughout your week. Take it very seriously as if it were publicly, and you're going to have so many stories, anecdotes, jokes to fall back on continuously.
Are you allowed to have script for it, or you just improvise as you go?
You can try a script, but I would do improv.
Like bullet point of what to say. Or
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, have some bullets, go from there, but leave some room for improv. And then if you find once a week is easy, amp it up to twice a week, 3 times a week. Amp it up to the point where it's happening too soon that you don't have enough time to fully script it. And even try somewhere it's like, I have nothing, I'm going in, let's see what happens. Yeah. Like remember, the goal there is it'll allow you to learn about yourself and grow, so don't try to make it easy or comfortable, make it self-expanding. Yeah. Yeah. But no, I have a friend actually who, I talked about this before, and he's like, I really want to do it. And he's a good friend. I'm like, I'll watch your podcast. So he sends me his podcast episodes. And I won't watch all of it. I'll skim through it a bit. But it's really fun. And to see his progress, even a good friend, crazy. Right? I'll do podcasts. Personally, I was doing a bunch of lives on YouTube before. That was my version of a podcast. Right? Just, hey, here we go. Let's see what happens. An event like this, a lot of what I talked about today is pure improv, kind of like a podcast. You'll even learn, by the way, subtleties in terms of when you start a sentence some way. If you're a perfectionist, you'll deal with this. For me, it was a big one when starting out public speaking. I would start my sentence like this. Cut what I just said. I would start my sentence like this. Okay, that's the sentence. And I would start it like that, trying to illustrate this idea. But as soon as I would say that, I would start my sentence like this, my mind would be like, oh, you should have started it like that instead. Uh-oh. And then what do people do? Oh, let me start over. And it just takes you out of the flow. What you'll learn with the podcast exercise, and what I learned with public speaking, is even if I start something the wrong way, you get creative, and it doesn't throw you out of the present moment, but you get creative and learn how to tie it back to where you're going to say, where it seems like it was always part of the plan. During the seminar, that happens many a times. Like sometimes I don't even, I'm like, okay, I want to get to that concept. How am I going to do it? Oh, I guess I started saying this. Let's bring it back this way. That's a skill you'll develop. And that's where it just seems effortless and just flowing all the time, because it is. Okay? So podcast once a week, 1 hour, plus going out. Game changer. Combine that content with the vibe, social mastery.
How can you better absorb information from someone whose style isn't quite, like you're not resonating with it fully, but you know there's good content there?
Ask yourself, what's my version of that? This is key, especially, say, socially, charisma-wise. If you see someone with charisma, there's a lot of people I see with charisma, like I don't even like, or the message they're saying, but I do acknowledge, okay, there's charisma there. I always ask myself, what's my version? How, if you were that, because what is really charisma? It's you tapping into authenticity, leaning into it, and supercharging it to the point where you almost become this caricature version of who you are, right? That's what I talked about earlier. Like me here on stage, this is not how I am all the time. At home, if I'm chilling, I'm not like, hey, kid, no, I'm just like, I'm actually really chill. Like people behind the scenes like, well, you're like that? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty chill. I have this full range of expressiveness. But when you see someone, it's always That's their version of supercharging their personality. What's my version of supercharging mine to the same level they're doing theirs? So even though your personalities might not match at all, they supercharge theirs. Be like, if I added the same power to mine, what would that look like, and how could I do that for me?
If you see somebody who is high status, has a lot of connections, and you're trying to make a connection with that person, these concepts that you brought up, the pushing the buttons and stuff, how does it play out when you try to use those to interact with a high status individual at a party or other gathering?
That is exactly how you do it. It's by playing on the vibe playing field versus the specific status playing field. Meaning, say it's a networking someone, you're like, oh, well, that person, oh, they're making more money, they're more successful, da 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 da. Say finance-wise, people then make comparisons like, I don't make as much money as them, I don't have as much financial status as them, and then you're already in that frame. Versus, let's play on the vibe, let's put that playing field to the side. What's one where I can crush it vibe-wise? Let me cultivate within me a much more charismatic, fun, carefree, and attractive vibe, more than them. So that when I talk to them, I'm like, hey, how's it going? They're just like anyone else. Humans are humans. They're like, carefree, fun, passion? And they'll get sucked in. So you win on the vibe side. And then you don't get sucked into any other metric or label. And people want to love that, and they'll want to be around you.
So that plays out pretty positively then.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Test it out. Yeah, people get way too stifled with that. They're like, oh, I got to play by the rules of the networking event. Your reality, your rules. Of course, calibration comes into play. You can't be like saying dumb, crazy shit. But vibe-wise, that's what they're looking for, especially if they have status, because everyone's going in very supplicating and stifled. Do something different, stand out, game changer.